You guys, everyone knows jiu-jitsu is taking over in America and around the world, but few people know how it started, particularly in America. And it started before we were born.
Yes.
So before we were born, our father, Harion Gracie, met this gentleman, Richard Bressler, aka Hitchard Bressler, who's basically like an uncle to us, and he recently released this amazing book about the story, the beginnings of jiu-jitsu in America, called Worth Defending. And we wanted to bring him in just to talk about the book, the stories. They're all documented now, which is amazing. And thanks for being here, bro. So
thank you very much.
Yeah. So take us back.
Take us back.
Well, before you take us back, one thing about the stories is
Yes.
I feel like jiu-jitsu is one of those arts, one of those activities where people actually want to know the stories, because the relationships that we build on the mat with our instructors and with our fellow training partners are so special that, like, you could argue that, like, for example, some sports out there, it doesn't really matter where it came from and how it, caught fire and what made it really blow up in that country. But with jiu-jitsu, everyone's so close.
Everyone's so
that,
close.
like, you don't have to go back too far to really understand where it all started, and this book is a great starting point.
And for many people, the starting point was the UFC.
Oh, but no, it's
It was
way before the UFC.
They said, I go, where do you think jiu-jitsu started? When I talk to people, and they go, like right after the UFC. And I said, no, 14 years before the UFC.
In America.
America.
Before that, 60 years before that in Brazil. But in America, so take us back to the first meeting and how it all started and how you found your way to the original Gracie Garage.
Okay, I was an unhappy kid working in the fast food business. I was selling a waterbed mattress. And I got home from work and there was a message. So I called the number back and your dad answered the phone. I said, yes, someone called me about a waterbed. And he said, that was my roommate, but he already bought one. And I was just about ready to hang up, but he goes, but I'm looking for one. And I said, okay, well, I said, I live in Marina del Rey. He lived in Redondo, North Redondo. And so he said, I'll be right over. So he drove over. Dad walks in, really nice, calm, confident guy. I'm going like, wow, this guy has such an air. I didn't realize what jiu-jitsu was bringing through this. And then we go upstairs. He makes me a killer deal. I was selling waterbed brand new. The waterbed was brand new in the box. I had 3 sets of sheets brand new that I was selling for $15 a set. King size sheets. Your dad goes, I'll tell you what. He says, why don't you give me all 3 sets for $5 or for $15? So it's $5 a set. I'm going like, come on, man.
It's your entire profit margin.
And he said, I'm from Brazil. I don't know how to speak English.
Well, what kind of sheets are these, right? $15 sheets.
Well, the things are different.
Remember, this was 1979.
I know, I can't even
But
imagine
still,
$15
the fact that they're worth
sheets.
$15 a set, and he wanted to get 3 sets for $15.
That's right.
So then he offers what?
He was going to pay for something else?
No. He just said, you never know when it'll come back to you.
Oh.
And he didn't even talk about jiu-jitsu yet.
Interesting.
So we're walking downstairs, and he said, my friend, have you ever done any martial arts? And, no guy wants to think that, or wants to even admit that they don't know how to defend themselves. I said, yeah, I boxed for a few months. I literally boxed for about 5 months, and this was probably 8 years ago. And I go, why? And he says, well, my friends, my family's been doing jiu-jitsu for 65 years in Brazil, and we're champions, and this and that. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. And he says, I'll tell you what, why don't you come by for a free class? Free class. I mean, he said the optimum word for me. I said, free? Okay. And I walked in, I drove over there, and your dad had the place. It was before the garage in Hermosa Beach. It was in North Redondo. And I walk in there, and your dad has this thing that's partitioned. He has like a sheet over all the stuff that was in the garage. And on a board, he had a real knife, a fake gun, and a club. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God. Is this guy going to kill me, or are we going to be like, I had no idea what to expect. And the first thing, it's like, how would you, we go through the self-defense, and I go, wow, this is so simple, and I'm not screaming, and I don't have to use any force. I was like, wow. And, and then when we did the grip where you grab someone's shirt, and he twisted my wrist, he did this. As he went to do it, I kind of went like this, and he goes, like make sure and I'm like, whoa.
He cared for you after he twisted
cared
you.
from after twisting. And I'm like, oh, and this is so much different than what I expected. So I did. After the class was over, we go in the house, and he goes, "Have you ever had any watermelon juice?" So he gives me watermelon juice and dates with cream cheese, and I'm like going, wow, this is amazing.
So,
and this was free.
With the class, that was free.
That was free. And then after that, I have to do this.
So then you fell in love. That was it.
It was the watermelon juice.
So
And it was a $10.
So after that, the private class were $10 for that experience, and oftentimes dinner was included after the first class.
Yeah.
$10 was the rate for
That's
private
right.
classes in the garage with our father, and you took the deal. You were happy with it. You guys became pals. You trained a whole bunch. At what point did you become the middleman for the Gracie Challenge matches that happened back in those days? Because you were kind of the gopher between other martial arts and Torrance. When did you start saying, man, I'm going to go find people to fight these Gracies because this is too much fun?
Probably a few months. I don't know if it was just before we moved in October of '80 or if it was just after that. But your dad was like challenging different people. And he comes to me and he goes, Richard, he says, I don't want to make enemies. He says, I'm trying to make friends. I'm trying to get students. And he says, but if I go in there and challenge, I'm making enemies. He says, but you can make enemies. That's exactly you can. And so I said, oh, okay. So where do you go to look for tough guys back then?
Right.
Karate schools.
Usual.
So I go into I start looking. I go into karate schools, and I can't tell you how many times that I've heard the karate teacher. They come up to me, and I tell them about this guy from Brazil. And I'd say, I really want to see this guy get his butt kicked because he's got a big mouth. And the guy goes, oh, we got a guy. He says, but you don't want him. I go, why? And the guy, see this? I go, yeah. I said, what is it? He says, it's an inch. My guy breaks bricks.
With 1 inch.
Yeah, with 1 inch.
Got it. So you were actually playing them. You would say things like, I want to see the Brazilian get beat up.
Yeah.
Wow.
I want to see this guy shut his mouth.
Can someone please beat up
No,
the Brazilian guy?
You would go recruit people to go fight the Brazilian guy in the garage, but also there's a loudmouth master is what you're saying, that you wanted to see the master get beat up as well.
Well, yes, but I had to act like I wanted to see, someone should shut this Brazilian guy.
Oh, got it. So you were playing him like, yo, this Brazilian talking too much. I think you can beat him. And then the karate master would say, I got a guy.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. He can break it, but you don't want him. He's too deadly because with 1 inch, he'll break through the brick, which means your skull is nothing.
And I'd say, that's the guy I want.
We need him.
And then they would say,
well, no. And they would, nothing would happen.
more often than not, they would say no.
Yeah.
Sometimes they would say yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'd say, hey, where do we go? And I had a guy working for me back at Chuck Burger in Hawthorne Plaza who was a second-degree Kempo guy, and they'd come over, and every time they would do something, they would be a short, slow motion stuff. And the guy, obviously, he'd clinch in, and each time they'd give him another chance. A lot of times, people, after a while, they kind of go, if I'm just a little faster, and like I've heard you say, and like I've heard your dad say in the videos, if I'm a little faster and I know what's going on, and every single time they would take him down, same result.
This idea of you tricking them, I need someone to come beat up the Brazilian guy,
yeah.
It doesn't really land well with me. When I hear that, I'm like, man, that's not right. But then
you were tricking him into
correct.
the trap.
But then because of how my father and maybe other people also fought those karate guys, how they treated them,
Interesting.
I know that it's okay.
You knew that my dad was going to kill the person.
He didn't throw 10 elbows
beat
to the
him.
guy's face when he mounted him.
He never hit him.
Yeah, he never even hit them. So
he might slap the guy.
I wouldn't even be against that happening today.
So morally, he was conflicted between your trickery to get them in, but morally, it's acceptable that you recruited these guys so deceivingly.
Because it's a gentle art.
Because you knew they were going to be safe, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, it would still be a chance to show jiu-jitsu's amazingness.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, he because your dad said to me, he says, look, you can beat somebody up and not hurt them. Same thing Damian Maia has said.
Of course.
And it's the thing that we have the opportunity to control somebody and not hurt them.
That's what we all love most about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Is that we can be effective, we can defend ourselves and do it humanely and preserve life in the process.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. So then, early days, you talk about this in here, you talk about the different challenge matches, then you transition, the Gracie Academy opens, largely thanks to you, because my dad needed to open a school, right? We needed to open a school because we couldn't keep doing it out of the house.
Came to me and he said, Richard, we need money, to open the academy. And I said, great. I said, let's do it. And he says, we have a problem. I go, what's that? And he goes,
We need money.
and I'm like, so what are you saying?
You're good at finding stuff. You might as well go find some
You're good
money.
at finding people for me to beat up.
And my account.
Yeah.
So
you pulled it together.
You helped
You
do
helped
that.
make it possible.
Yeah.
We opened the Gracie Academy largely because Richard, I think you borrowed some money from even your family.
yeah, 20 grand from my mom and dad.
From your
And
mom
they
and dad,
And they
dude.
said, "What are you doing this for?" And I told them, and they said, "Oh, God." They think, okay, this is going down the drain.
Yeah.
But it's our son. He believes in jiu-jitsu.
Oh, they just did it out of the love. And
But back to what you said in the beginning, though, you were an unhappy kid working at a fast food store.
Yeah.
Also selling waterbeds.
And-
So they were happy to see that you were so inspired by something. That's why they supported you.
yeah.
Yeah. And I sold a waterbed just because I had an extra one. I wasn't selling them.
Oh, you weren't a waterbed
I just
salesman.
had-
Got it.
No. I
just
had
had
a
an extra
buddy who was
waterbed.
selling it. So, and I bought one, and then I said I bought a set, and then I had an extra mattress. So,
Got it.
Excellent. Is it true that at that early stage in your life, I think you talk about this in here as well, is that you had some less than favorable habits, lifestyle habits,
you mean like drugs?
like those? So before jiu-jitsu...
I didn't want to talk about those.
Get out of here, bro.
Yeah, I talk about that in the book. Oh, sorry.
So that was before jiu-jitsu as well, and jiu-jitsu ultimately for you cleaned life up. Not only were you instrumental in helping make jiu-jitsu possible in America, helping open the Gracie Academy, helping recruit challenge matches for our father, for the original Gracie Garage days, but also it for you personally has been quite a thing.
Well, the one good thing where it's different for me, I had an advantage because I lived with your dad for a year. You know, it was I signed the lease in Hermosa Beach.
Got it.
And so when I lived with your dad, you know, I was eating like Twix candy bars and just junk. I mean, I ran a fast food place.
Yeah.
And your dad would say, I'd say like, I'd eat the meals. I go, wow, everything tastes so good. He goes, just eat meals with me. Just, you know. So I started eating meals with your dad. He would go to sleep and then I'd kind of like pig out for like, 2 or 3 months. But after that, I stopped eating Twix candy bars. It just changed. My eating habits just changed. So I had someone to help show me, to guide me, where a lot of people don't. You have to be really motivated. I was motivated.
You had that personal touch, you had that personal connection.
Yeah.
And that's the power of jiu-jitsu, once again, is the personal connections, the friendships. And people all around the world are doing jiu-jitsu, and they're feeling those connections. And I'm so glad that Richard stays connected to us. Because he's not training here on a regular basis, but he comes by. And I'm grateful for your presence in our lives and this book, for you to share the stories of how you made this possible for our family. So we're really grateful for you.
Yeah, there's no doubt that jiu-jitsu in America, and really the Gracie Academy's establishment, the Gracie Garage Challenge matches, which he largely facilitated, and then the eventual creation of the UFC, which was kind of a natural progression from the Garage Challenge matches, the opening of the Academy, and now it's known worldwide. And I think that a lot of people don't know the story in America, and I think they know the Gracie Garage, they know our dad, they know somewhat of the challenge matches, but Richard has a unique perspective, not being a member of the family, right, by name, but a member of the family by campaign for jiu-jitsu in America. So,
and one thing I wanted to say, one of the things which you can read about in the book, is the first week that I signed the lease in Hermosa Beach. The first week we were there, Hickson, your grandfather, and Carlos Gracie Jr. spent the week with us.
oh my gosh.
So that to me was what I called jiu-jitsu heaven.
Oh my gosh.
And when I had the class with your grandfather, and I went over to your dad because I saw him on the mat and I saw he was in the gi, and I go over and I go, I don't want to hurt him. And your dad just pats me on the arm. He goes, I think he'll be okay. And I mounted on top of him, and he put his hands there, and he just moved, and I couldn't do anything. He swept me, and I don't know how he tapped me out to this day. But anyways, so stories like that will be in the book, and there's an audio book too. And who knows what my life would be like now without meeting.
Well, not only your life,
Who knows
what
my life would
our
be like?
world would be like
Who knows?
without this. So there will only ever be one Hitchard Breslin who got the privilege of living this life and joining our father in the early days of jiu-jitsu in America. But lucky for all of us, we can relive it and know all the awesome, amazing details throughout this journey in his book, Worth Defending. It's available on Amazon, you guys. Check it out. We appreciate Richard. We did this gladly to let the world know that this exists, and we hope you guys enjoy the book as much as we did. So thanks for joining us. If you're lucky enough, come to California, share the mat. Richard still teaches jiu-jitsu to this day, and we're always blessed when he comes here and shares the mat with us as well. So thank you, Richard. Congratulations.
Thank you, brother.
Scott
Thank
Burr,
you.
who helped pull the book together as well. Scott, congratulations. Great work, and we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, Scott did a great job.
Amazon, check it out there, you guys.